Okay, well, after many hours, there seems to be some progress. I've now installed the processor, a heatsink rather, the processor heatsink sitting there. Modified that plastic, which can possibly just be seen there, so that there's space now around this new modified heatsink here. I've put insulation around that in preparation for the heat pipe system to be bolted on, and then when that heat pipe system's bolted on and working, then I'll insulate around that. But it's very complicated to do that insulation and make sure that, well, the insulation's in place and that the insulation isn't touching the motherboard. I've also insulated round the CPU processor heatsink, so you can see that two layers of aluminium and plastic suspended, so that it's sort of floating above the processor, but nevertheless stopping the heat from moving out into the motherboard. And again, around these two chips that are on the board here have now been insulated, little skirts put round them in preparation for the heat pipe heatsink being bolted on top of those, and then again connected to the case. When that's all working, then I'll insulate around that. The principle being that the heat goes from the chips into the heat sinks, not into the surroundings, and then moves from those insulated heat sinks through the heat pipes rapidly to the case fins. And then when we have a look inside the case, we can see that that's been insulated such that the heat is forced outwards rather than back into the case. I guess that's about as good as it's going to get. Well, I think I've done it. I think I haven't damaged the motherboard. I think the heat sinks are in place properly. But at the moment, it's many hours of work, and I have no idea whether it'll even work when I switch it on. So, well, there we are.